All right, everybody, welcome back. Sam's Army Match Week Nations League. I guess we'll call it. We got a lot to talk about and probably yell about. So let's get to it. We're going to start with Round the World, where we'll dive into the nightmarish CONCACAF Nations League window that it was for USMNT. Halftime, we will hit a woulda, coulda, shoulda weekly what if, and probably compliment corner. I think this might be a week to bring that back. MLS Hit It, Quit It minute will be next. And then a historically rapid Premier League segment, thanks to the extremely abbreviated weekend we have coming up. Then stoppage time with Ivan Toney's best bets and everyone's favorite segment, GOAWs. Now, time to welcome in this week's panel of beauties. First up, we got Tyler Terrans, who is yet to officially face the music for Liverpool's no good, very bad week that was last week. We'll save that for now, because, the Premier League isn't officially back. So for now, it's been a while since we've gotten an update on Tommy Brewster and his tween-age soccer hijinks. Give us the lay of the land. Where are we at here?
Unfortunately, I don't even want to say since the season started, but the last 2 weeks I've only been home once in the last 14 days. This being the one time. So he has not seen the light of day. Between Open Cup, Fox, CONCACAF Champions Cup games, and MLS, Tommy Brewster has been tucked away. He becomes a hobby as opposed to the main priority during the season. So unfortunately, but goal still remains to have him done by the end of the calendar year. So we're about 110 pages in what I hope to be about a 250-page book.
I was going to ask that follow-up question. I was going to say, how long roughly are you? And a two-parter. How do you write? Where do you feel most creative? What environment makes you feel in a writing mood?
Morning, cup of coffee. Honestly, just sitting at the kitchen table in my kitchen. But I have said to my fiance Shannon before, I was like, I need to go to a cabin in the middle of the woods and just lock myself in there with no internet and just write for a week and just finish it. Like that's how I'm going to get this done, because there's too many distractions. There's too much other shit to do where I just can't sit down and write a book for, a week.
Yep.
Yeah. What's the Shining? I have a picture of you in The Shining at some hotel off in the Lake District of Upper New York. All right, Tommy McGunner, thoughts on your coach describing you last week to an enterprising journalist as no longer a spring chicken?
Yeah, I got no words for that. That one hit a little too close to home.
Okay, can I, in my defense and in Tommy's defense, I quite literally came to his defense and I was like, Coach, he's not exactly 32 years old. Like he's still like 26, 27. Like, and he goes, he ain't what he used to be. And I was like, Jesus.
I love it.
Let's just say that he's pretty good with the jokes. So he took full advantage of
Tell you what, they could have used you, because Westchester United was arguably, for my money, and I saw a lot of amateur teams during the first round. They were probably the best one, and they made your life very difficult in the first half.
They're typically one of the better ones, and if you actually look at the roster, they had a lot of pretty good D1 programs on their
But
team.
the best player on the field for them, arguably, was the kid Kenny Roby, who went to SUNY New Paltz. Shout out Division III soccer, baby. I mean, come on, we slept on perpetually.
Always.
So a little backstory on that game is, I'd say 5 or 6 of those guys have been into training with us in preseason or at some point during the season, and Ken was one of them. Mm-hmm. So there was an edge on some of those guys. And yeah, he was pretty good.
Yeah.
There we go. All right. Last but never least, Mr. Mitchell Goulet, a.k.a. Overtime Mitch, who is faced with an intro question that the Sam's Army Discord has been demanding an answer to for weeks now. And by the way, if you're not on the Discord, you should be on it right now. Get the Sam's Army Patreon, $3.99 a month. But what they want to know, which Pokemon, as everybody knows, you are the official resident Pokemon expert here. Mm-hmm. Which Pokemon does each podcast co-host remind you of?
Yep. So I wear that title with quite a bit of pride, our official Pokemon correspondent. And I put a lot of thought and time into these, as our Discord users know. And so without further ado, I'll start with Mikey Fowler, who is not here right now, but has co-signed this comparison. Mikey is Wartortle. And Wartortle, as you may or may not know, is the second evolution of Squirtle, who I'm sure you're a little more familiar with. Wartortle has a off-putting face, and I think Mikey Fowler can identify with that.
Did he sign off on this description?
Yeah.
A little bit, yeah. I called it a menacing glare, but yeah, same thing. He's aggressive at times, and one of the main reasons I gave for Mikey being Wartortle is that I feel Mikey Fowler is not in his full evolution yet, and Wartortle reaches his full evolution, Blastoise, at level 36. Mikey has a few years to get to 36, and then he'll reach that. Next up, we have Tommy McCabe. Tommy McCabe is Kadabra. Kadabra is a psychic type Pokemon. He carries a spoon with him everywhere he goes. Tommy, I don't know what your relationship with spoons is like, but he has an extraordinary ability to communicate with Pokemon and humans alike with very strong brain waves. And this is representative of Tommy's ability to communicate soccer ideas to laymen's and tactical heads alike. If you haven't seen his Tommy's Talking Tactics, it is extraordinary. You learn a lot every time, and I feel Kadabra could give a similar style of analysis when it comes to Pokemon battles. So that's Tommy McCabe. Tyler Terrence. Scyther. Scyther is a ninja / bug type Pokemon, and he is, if one word to describe him, I would say aggressive. He has a really short temper, but as I said in the Discord, he is somebody that you want on your team. He is quick. His like marquee stat is his quickness. And I played basketball with Tyler. I've not played soccer with anybody on this podcast, actually, but I played basketball with Tyler, and he's exceptionally quick. He's, deceptively athletic, as the announcers say. And his short temper reminded me of Scyther. So Tyler Terrence is Scyther. Last, but absolutely not least, is Sam's Army. Samuel Army is Psyduck. And if you know anything about Pokemon, I'm sure you've seen pictures of Psyduck. Psyduck. He has a very empty glare going forward. Yep. You can see the facial resemblance almost. Look at that. Psyduck is confused at most hours of the day, but it comes in handy in the unlikeliest of situations. He's an unbelievable friend. His hairstyle is similar to Sam's as well. And he has strong psychic powers that cannot be really explained by anything. And I think that is the most adept explanation of Samuel Army ever.
Like every single one of these flew way over my head, obviously. But then when I saw the picture of Psyduck, I was like, God damn it. That one hits close enough to home that I have to allow it. So well done. I wish I
could with love. I truly
that's great. I wish I had all the pictures I could have done, one by one. But this is great. I'm sure most people probably actually know who they are, so they don't need my little help. But well done. Well done. Hopefully the Discord will be satisfied with that. All right, time to move on. That was the fun part of the program. That's done now. Let's move on to the less fun part of the program, where we got to discuss U.S. men's national team. And oh my God, what a window. So this was the third official window under Pochettino. The first two windows, I think, went arguably relatively well. This one did not, just to put a little bow on it. So we lost in the Nations League, CONCACAF Nations League semifinal. We lost to Panama 0-1 on a last-second goal. And then we followed that up with a bounce-back performance that was arguably even worse against Canada, and we lost 2-1. I don't even think we have to go through these games individually unless you guys want to. Is there just any sort of top-level thoughts you want to throw at us, Tyler?
Yeah, no, going over the two games would be just as boring as the games themselves from a United States men's national team standpoint. This was so disappointing on so many levels. And, I've heard a million people talk about it at this point. My one takeaway from the Canada game was that Diego Luna seemingly was the only one who had any balls on the field.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not talking about caring. I'm not talking about running. Like, sure, everybody was running and everybody was like putting in an effort. I'm sure covered their quota of kilometers over the course of the 90 minutes, whoever was playing. But I'm talking about like the sheer concept of breaking lines, making runs, knowing what you're going to do before you get the ball, and just being a soccer player who's like creative in the attacking third. Just like super simple, straightforward stuff. And I have a million thoughts as to why this has happened and who we've become as a country and what's gone on. But I'll let everybody else kind of chime in with their overwhelming thoughts. But my first one is just simply like Diego Luna was the only one who cared. And like Josh Sargent, I've been saying this for years. I've been saying this since, his last goal was against Cuba in 2019 and it was against Cuba.
Sargent?
Yeah. Nations League group stage games. So like I'm done with that 7th time over experiment. I've been saying this for years. He doesn't fit in to this group. He doesn't have the confidence. There's something wrong with him whenever he puts on this jersey. It's just a fact. It's a fact at this point.
Yeah. I mean, I came into this window saying that Josh Sargent, he may have had like the biggest opportunity in front of him, with Balogun out, with Pepe out.
Brian White looked 10 times more dangerous than he did when in the moments that he was playing against Canada, actually like trying to find pockets and trying to play as a number 9 while Canada was sitting relatively deep at the end of that game. Looked much better than Sargent did, kid who plays for the Vancouver Whitecaps.
Yeah.
I want to push back on that. Brian White in his little cameo against Canada looked out of his element. He looked like a deer in headlights.
You think so?
Yeah, there were a couple touches, specifically the one in the box, which I guess it came to him hot and he settled it, but didn't get a shot off. He then shortly thereafter was offside for a stupid reason, then committed a stupid frustration foul in extra time. I don't think Brian White is levels, and I could say that for a number of players, not just Brian White. I think Max Arston is just not national team caliber.
I'm with you there. Yeah.
And I'm glad that these guys got to try out and got to, show what they had. But there were a couple guys in that Canada game that just did not look levels, and that seems to be the case in less dramatic fashion for some of the other players on this U.S. men's national team. It feels like there's a lot of players out there, bar Pulisic and maybe Luna, that are used to playing with other players who make things happen, and they are complementary to those players that go and change games. They are not the game changers themselves, and unless somebody else can come to mind and say, well, I mean, Tyler Adams takes the game into his own hands, Weston McKennie can take the game into his own hands, but apart from those 4, I don't see any other players that are going to go make something happen on this roster.
Let me be clear on my point. I was just simply saying Brian White was better than Sargent.
Sure. Yeah. Okay.
Which was not saying a lot. But
no, sure.
Yeah, as Drew pointed out, coming into this, one of the reasons I was excited for Josh Sargent is because he's played so well for Norwich. Yes, it's the championship. It's not the Premier League, but still, championship's not nothing. And I have always thought that if there's any league out there that could get you ready for CONCACAF, I figure championship must be kind of high up there. Anyway, Tommy, high-level thoughts here?
I didn't watch either game. I was playing my own soccer or traveling for my own soccer.
Selfish.
All right, Charles Barkley.
So I have no commentary on like the actual performance. General overview stuff. I think you see some of this maybe with England right now, with fan base expectations versus reality, and then the lack of a distinct style for the national team within our country, or like a heavy base of players in the same team or the same league. And I think like, even though Serie A is probably where we have our best contingent of players right now, they're in a variety of different kind of roles and club experiences there. So it's hard, I think, for these guys to come in. I'm not making excuses for what I've heard happened in the past 2 games, but maybe just a reason why. and that this is not something that's unique to the US. Like this happens in other countries too. But when you start comparing yourself to these high level countries, yeah, there has to be an adjustment on that front. And I think maybe you hear some of the older men's national team guys talk about it. They've gone away from what's true to what is like at the core of a U.S. men's national team player. When you just list off adjectives that we would all want to see, maybe that's why I think some of the fans are generally upset, or former players are upset, is because maybe they don't identify with what we're seeing.
Yeah, and the fact that we just lost to Panama and Canada on home soil and showed absolutely zero heart. Like in terms of what you missed, you didn't miss shit.
That's the core identity. I think American fans and former players say, like, when they talk about U.S. at their best, I think heart is a big part of it.
But the previous U.S. men's national teams, whether it's the 02 guys or whatever, or 2010 or 2014, there was always something to prove. There was always a chip on their shoulder, and there was always this sense of like, nobody expects anything out of us. We're not like the expectation now has become the U.S. get out of their group in the World Cup. Even in 2010, with that dog shit group, the expectation wasn't to get out of it. It was just to simply like try to see if you can pick up points. And we ended up doing it in the most incredible fashion. And to be completely honest with you guys, the last time that I've felt inspired by this national team was 2010. Now, the expectations have something to do with that, right? Because now it doesn't matter if you somehow scored a goal in the dying moments of a game where you need a point in order to advance into the round of 16, because that's not the goal anymore. But that's the last time where I sort of took inventory of like what it means to be a U.S. men's national team fan, what it means to like be somebody who cares about this sport in this country and work in the sport in this country to a certain extent. But like even talking to Steve Cherundolo after the LAFC Sporting Kansas City game, and he was there with a bunch of U.S. men's national team alumni. They invited a bunch of people, to the game, the federation. And he was like, yeah, like we just don't identify with this group. The only thing that they had was hard work and just winning individual battles. Like Sasha Kleston tweeted it out. This is a different sport than club soccer. Breaking people down with patterns and understanding of where people are going to be, and this little bullshit that works because you're in training every single day with these guys. That's not what international soccer is. And if I can be Mikey Fowler for a second, because he was me last week, like this fucking product blows. It does. It really does. For most of the parts of the field, outside of the 10% on either goal, the product sucks. There's no good real understanding of like where guys are supposed to be. The patterns aren't there. This is individual battles. It's duels. It's making something happen, and it's capitalizing on mistakes. We don't do any of that. And not for nothing, but look at AC Milan. Christian Pulisic is arguably, quote unquote, the best player at Milan. Okay, they're in like 9th place in Serie A right now. That's what we're talking about. Is like, sure, he plays for a quote-unquote big club, but if he's going to be considered the best player on that team and they're in 9th place, well, okay, he's our best player. So that makes sense that we go and perform in a mediocre way against Panama and Canada. That all checks out. How many times on this podcast have we talked about that there's no more Maverick in this game? Mavericks like have ceased to exist. Why did Spain win the Euros? Because Nico Williams and Lamine Yamal could somehow, in little moments, find ways to break lines, break guys down, and make something happen. England, Germany, all these other teams sucked because they were trying to play it like it was club soccer. France, same bullshit. This is like, again, this is a different sport than club soccer, and I feel like these guys hang their hat on the fact that they play for big clubs. And then they roll into camp with that understanding and with that sort of like misconception of what they're here in this program to do. You're in this program to go be a fucking dog and make sure that you don't lose a single 50-50 and go try to turn them over in their defensive third. That's how you win in CONCACAF, let alone in the world stage.
To ask about that real quick, are any players in this U.S. men's national team camp asked to do that at a club level? Because like it's been a reality that club and international soccer are different styles for a very long time, but it's always been supplemented by the Mavericks, as you say. Like big performances from individual players. Are any of our players asked to go win duels in the final third are asked to go be that player, are asked to go, make something happen at a club level, or are they asked to kind of make the right decisions a lot of times? And like you mentioned, Christian Pulisic being our guy, being the Captain America. I know he doesn't like that moniker, and he hasn't really lived up to it as of the last 6 months. But if he's our guy, and as you said, ninth place mid-table Serie A team, what does that say? For so long, the United States have defined international success in soccer as big players playing at big clubs over in Europe. And for better or worse, we've kind of got there. We have a lot of players that have or currently are playing at big clubs, quote unquote. So now what? Does that mean that we're successful now? Does that mean that we're no longer an underdog because some of our players make more over in Europe? Or it feels as if the work, quote unquote, is seen as done by the player pool, and we get to roll into national team camps with that kind of 12th place in FIFA ranking, and we can kind of just impose our will on a team like Panama. Even a team like Canada didn't feel like we actually wanted to go win those games. It felt like we thought we deserved them, and both teams, Panama and Canada, felt very differently. And it was because of, I don't want to say players don't care, but players prioritize club soccer now over the national soccer because we've told them to for a very long time. We have defined that as success for the U.S. is getting big players to play over on big clubs.
Oh, hold on a second. We haven't defined it as success. We've defined it as if you go play for big clubs, regardless of what your role is, because that was never sort of defined, at least by the media, that's going to translate to success with the U.S. men's national team. Mm-hmm. That has been proven wrong, I think, in this camp alone, let alone what's gone on for the past 8 years.
Yes. It's not the only indicator of success, but I will say, not from a tactical standpoint or a player standpoint, but from a cultural standpoint, relevance over in Europe has been important to the United States.
100%.
But it feels like we as a federation have almost put too much importance on that. And now what do we have?
But back to your point, and I don't, Steve in the chat said name names, Mr. Terrence. I don't really know. Am I supposed to be naming names in terms of who used to do that, or I don't know what that means, but I'm happy to talk about it. But the Maverick aspect and being asked to go do that, Christian Pulisic, to a certain extent, when he's playing in that number 10 role, Maverick, I don't really know. Does anybody on AC Milan look like a Maverick? No, they're the Spurs of Italy. It's just super passive and just it's not fun to watch. But when Clint Dempsey was playing for the Sounders, he was asked to go be a Maverick and to take guys on and to just bury people. When he was at Fulham, was he a Maverick outside of that chip against Juventus? Was he a Maverick at Fulham? The answer is no, because he's playing at a different level and he's not asked to do that. Some South American that they bought for $10 million from Boca or whatever, he's asked to do that. Clint Dempsey's not asked to do that. And there's another thing I want to address too, because this goes back to how we deem this the golden generation because we have all these guys playing at the top level. What simply has happened since 2002, let's call it, to now, okay? Or even going back to 94, 98, whatever. What's happened now is that because Major League Soccer has continued to exist and actually is operating at a relatively high level, if you want to argue that or not, by all means, go ahead. But look at where MLS was in 96 comparatively to now. Mm-hmm. Because soccer has become relevant in this country, dismissing American players has almost become stupid, and they've just simply been a part of the market now. Mm-hmm. Okay? So with that in mind, the way that Tony Meola, John Harkes, Claudio Reyna, all these guys were quote-unquote dismissed to a certain extent when they were playing, that doesn't happen anymore because guys are going to play for bigger clubs. But what I think is where the disconnect and the dissonance now lies is that we think that just because they're playing there now, that automatically the U.S. men's national team should be levels ahead of where things were. How many cycles have happened since 94? How many World Cup cycles have there been? Quick math.
98, 202, 06, 10, 14. Do we count 18? Or is that just a lost one?
Yes, you count that.
Yeah.
6. So this is our 7th.
So this is our 7th World Cup cycle. in what's deemed like U.S. soccer, and the first one being the real first one.
Mhm.
Did we really think that there was going to be groundbreaking change just because players from our country are now a part of the market? Did we really think it was going to change like that overnight? I hope that it does, and I hope we can find our way into the World Cup, and nobody will remember any of this bullshit if we get to a quarterfinal or a semifinal. Nobody will care.
Mhm.
But the way that it looks like right now is we're going to have to sit really deep, absorb a lot of pressure, and just grind our fucking dicks off in the knockout stage and do what England does and make it really ugly and just find a way to maybe win in penalties or a cheap goal in extra time. And it's going to look even uglier than when England does it.
I don't know if this team has that in it, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
To my point, that if something is going to happen, that's what it's going to look like. But I don't think that it
Yeah,
can.
I don't think we're going to hit a tactical epiphany over the next 12 months that
No.
make us play a beautiful style that can, I don't know, get to a quarterfinal, get to a semifinal. Like that just doesn't even kind of seem in the cards.
The thing about this window and it being just such a catastrophe is that any momentum that we had, and I said this coming into the window, like we needed to start sort of building some momentum because we didn't really have any. So any momentum we had is completely gone now. Because this honestly is the kind of the lowest I've felt maybe since missing the World Cup. Like
Is this this isn't worse than Copa America and getting bounced in the group stage?
Yeah, that was bad.
This is not worse than that.
I guess that's
because
probably
the
true.
fact of the matter is
the
this
thing
is
we
only
had that red card that we just sort of could put a hole.
Doesn't matter.
Changed everything, but yeah, that was bad
grand
too.
Scheme, there's been more negative points over the last 4 to 5 years than there has been positive.
Right, and if we're going to start building momentum, this is when we need to start doing it. We lost anything that we had. Momentum's kind of a cheesy word, but regardless, I wanted to have some wins to stack together here and sort of get casual fans on board. They are not coming on board now. They don't give a shit. So hopefully, the next window, which would be in, when are our next games? So our next games are in June. We got
those
Turkey,
those decent friendlies. Yeah.
right? So Turkey on June 7th and Switzerland on June 10th. It's all legitimate opponents, but it's friendlies. So what do you get out of that? We're then going to do the Gold Cup thing in the summer. So that would, hopefully we get some wins there. I mean, Poch doesn't have a lot to work with here, and he hasn't had a lot to work with. How much of this are you putting on Poch versus the players?
The results specifically you're asking?
Look, I always prefer to put it on the players. Because if you're succeeding, I would like to be the one to have ownership and take credit for it. But that also comes with the responsibility of, hey, if it doesn't happen, it's on us too.
What worries me is Pochettino has a track record of, getting more out of players. I'm definitely thinking specifically about Tottenham, but you could argue it with some of his other stops as well. He gets more out of players, but also they play together as a team. They, they play hard. Just thinking of Pochettino as the player, like I can't imagine he would ever be okay with like a team coming out and laying an egg. Well, we just laid 2 eggs, 2 90-minute games of absolute dick. I was really hoping for a response in the Canada game. The fact we didn't have arguably any, I mean, yeah, they scored and we immediately bounced back and had our best maybe 3 minutes of play immediately after they scored in that game. But then after that and before that, nothing. I mean, that's what worries me is that these 2 performances were so languid, so lacking of, intensity. Like, I know it's Nations League, right? You could argue, oh, do these really matter and all that, but like we've agreed collectively that the Nations League matter. We brought our A squad and we shit the bed. That's what scares me.
Manufactured too. You as a team can bring the game to the other team in the first 5 minutes of the game, and you can set the tone of intensity and what that game is going to look like and how the rest of that 90 minutes is going to go. We didn't have anybody that wanted to do that. we didn't want to play an intense game. We did not want to play a CONCACAF messy game. We wanted to hold the ball. We wanted to possess. And you saw flashes of it. Like, you saw little buildups. There were a couple times that there were nice interchanges on the wings that ended up with a ball being cut back or crossed. And there was nobody at the end of it, but you saw the idea. You saw the tactic that was there. But other than that, nobody wanted to play with intensity. And apart from Luna, who again gave the extra effort, body language looked like he wanted to be there, looked like he was willing to exhaust himself and kind of leave it all on the field out there. Other than that, it was just language, a good word for it, Psyduck.
I think this is interesting because at the end of the day, this could actually be a good thing for us if you twist it that way. I think
Little wake up call.
Pochettino is going to be maybe more ruthless with who he chooses. And knows that he has a smaller margin for error and has realized some of maybe the flaws of the group and can address those head on. But I think also with him in charge, US is kind of stuck between two regions when you look at international soccer. I think there's a strong difference between how the European teams play and how South American teams play, especially the top nations. And I think at this point, we have a lot of players that grew up in a European approach, European model, but we play against a lot of teams that are similar to the South American style. Mm-hmm. And I think whenever they play outside of Europe, I think these European teams struggle a lot against South American teams. These are just general broad strokes. And maybe that's an approach difference or tactic that we have to adjust to because we do play against teams that try to muck it up, that we don't play in great environments, and it's very tough to play a kind of more methodical positional possession game. And that's where maybe having Pochettino, who's the combination of the two, who has the South American background, is an advantage for us. But that's something you just have to address and realize. And I'm curious to see how both of those things unfold moving forward. And right. I genuinely think in the long run, it could be a good thing where the players are like, oh shit, yeah, this wasn't a federation, a coach thing. This is, hey, we can take full ownership and responsibility for if this goes well or it doesn't go well.
Well, I hope they do.
Last thing I want to say on this is that, if you take a look at that Morocco team in 2022, right? And there's been a lot of talk of well, if they can do it, then surely why can't other people string together a magical run in the World Cup? Keep in mind that Morocco team fired their coach 2-3 months before the World Cup, and we blew doors off of them in June, maybe even later than June before the World Cup, which was obviously played during the winter. I'm not ready to hit the panic button. I think that just like everybody, it's lowering the expectations of what this group actually is. And not for nothing, the crowd, where we are in the cycle, where, and I'm not saying that there's a reason why the guys shouldn't get up for the game. Anytime you put on the badge, particularly competitive environment, and there's a trophy up for grabs, you should be able to play. However, they're only human. Most of them are still kids. And if you're looking at this from the big picture, you're now close to a year away from the World Cup. That's very same SoFi Stadium is a stadium that you're going to be playing in during the World Cup in competitive matches. There was nobody fucking there playing the early game. Everybody wants to come and see Mexico. It's difficult to get up for that. You can, and going back to my original point about you just need to figure it out basically as soon as the tournament rolls around. I don't know what's going to get you more up for it and what's going to make you want to make the extra run and do the little things that Diego Luna did more than the World Cup being on your home soil. It's as simple as that. So hopefully that's sort of a kick in the ass. And Morocco had a similar thing as being, a country that was relatively close to Qatar. But I don't know. For me, man, this is, this could be addressed as a huge wake up call. I hope that this is looked back as sort of the turning point. But I also don't think that this is the last speed bump that we're going to incur before next summer.
Yep.
Derek in the chat brings up a good point. He says, these guys are playing in front of sold-out clubs every week, referring to the players that play over in Europe. And then they turn up to a stadium of about 5,000 fans. Surely that has to play into the mentality a little bit. I can see that. I think if you zoom out and look at the American sport landscape as a whole, American sports fans have a lot of other more exciting things to care about right now. I don't know if you guys heard, but there's a huge college basketball tournament going on. That generally comes around once a year. And we are not the main attraction. And you could argue that we're not even the secondary or tertiary act either. Like this is
and it's LA.
And it's LA, right?
People have shit to do. They don't care.
Like I there's a lot of smaller reasons that people cannot go to a U.S. men's national team game for a window like this. But the big one is that they care less about the U.S. men's national team than they do about some other things in their life. They have better things to do. And
I got to add, hold on, because we're missing one big thing, which is actually the biggest thing. The way they set this thing up was U.S. playing, followed by Mexico games. So everybody who's buying tickets are buying tickets for the Mexico game. They're not buying tickets for the U.S. game. So you're setting yourself up for failure and setting yourself up to have 3,000 fans in a football stadium when you do it this way. I don't know who had the final say, CONCACAF, U.S.
Of course it's CONCACAF. Yeah, it's 100% CONCACAF.
Right. Yeah. We were set up for failure on that from the very beginning. It sucks. It's embarrassing, but that's the way
I don't know what ticket prices look like. Somebody said nosebleeds were in the realm of $75 for 2 soccer games. I'd pay $75 for 2 soccer games. That's a neutral fan wanting to see 2 full games of soccer. I can understand why people would not want to pay that. And those are nosebleeds, mind you. If you want to actually watch the game, you're probably paying $200 a ticket for 2 people. Call that $400 for 2 soccer games. You're spending $50 on beer each. Like, that shit adds up. This is not a luxury team worth paying luxury prices to see. So ticket prices definitely have something to do with it as well.
And the Thursday game against Panama, didn't it kick off at 4 p.m. local on like a Thursday? I mean, nobody's going to be there for that game. It sucks. It's embarrassing for U.S. team and U.S. fans, but it's like we could have seen that coming a million.
But I would argue that if you exchanged those 4 teams playing on that day for any of the days for 4 European or South American teams, people would get there. People would pay those prices. People would take off of work and show up for a 4 p.m. kickoff. People would get there and fill those seats. So, like, there's a lot of factors that can contribute to a mostly empty stadium. But I think the biggest one is fans don't care enough to go see them.
Yeah, we got to start winning. Yep. And that'll sort of heal a lot of problems. But yeah, we're in a bad spot right now, and it stinks. So quickly, any changes we need or want to see for the next window, Tyler?
I don't think this has anything to do with like personnel. Like, I agree that I don't think Sargent's not up for it. Arfston, I don't think is national team caliber. I think that, from an injury standpoint, I get why you bring in somebody like Brian White, and I actually like him a lot. But I don't think this has as much to do with player pool as it does with mentality. So no.
I agree with you there, and I'm excited because I think Poch I think he has that in his bag to get these guys. If they are capable of it, he will get that out of them. Tommy,
have you guys heard of this kid from I think Brooklyn or Bronx, Jonathan David?
Good ball player. Yeah, good ball player. Seen him. Yeah.
Maybe we should recruit him. Get that guy one-time switch.
We have won the majority of those dual national battles. Like, we won the Serginho Dest, we won the Pepe. Jonathan David's kind of the one.
Not for nothing, and I've banged on this drum for a while now, but missing Serginho Dest and obviously Anthony Robinson, and I know
huge.
Serginho Dest, I said it on SiriusXM like when he got hurt initially. I was like, he's a top 3 most important player on the U.S. men's national team.
Yeah.
Got laughed at. What's our record since Serginho Dest hurt himself?
Nothing.
There you go.
Well, it's funny you bring that up because we're going to get into that just a little bit more in just a second. Before we do that, though, let's give a shout out to our good friends and our sponsors over at Kick It, the all-in-one soccer tennis kit. Tyler, give us the spiel on Kick It here,
folks. You know what time of the year it is. CONCACAF Nations League, U.S. flaming out, March Madness, Masters. Weather's starting to warm up a little bit. Nipples are starting to tingle. Okay, you come home from work, sun's shining, it's a little bit lighter out, summer is coming, and what else do you need during the summer than the amazing lawn game that is going to keep you outside, keep your touch fresh, keep it clean, and if you don't have a great touch, it doesn't even matter because the ball's designed for those of you who have touches like you've got lead cinder blocks in your foot. I don't even know what a lead cinder block is, but Kick It is where it's at. Sam25 is the code you're going to use at discount, and I'll bring it down a little bit. But shout out to our good friends over at Kick It for continuously being a proud sponsor of Sam's Army. Make sure you go ahead and get it today because I've told you about our other sponsor we'll get to a little bit later on in the show. These are going to expire, and they're going to expire around the time that the weather really starts to warm up because they obviously want to make a profit off of it. They don't want to be throwing around discounts all the time, all right? Get your Kick It now, okay? I'm talking to all of you who have not done it yet. Get your Kick It before this offer goes away because it is going to go away soon. Sam25 gets you your discount on the basic soccer tennis set, and it is available. Go ahead and check it out, kickit.net.
There we go. All right, halftime, where we will start with the weekly what if. And as Tyler already teased, we were missing some important players in this window. We're missing Jedi. We're missing Dest. We're missing some other guys as well, Pepe, Balogun, etc. But Jedi and Dest specifically do change this team. So weekly what if, how different would this window look? Tommy, we're going to you first, by the way. How different would this window look if we had Jedi and Dest available?
Nice. Ask the guy who didn't watch.
You know everybody. You know the what we're talking about here.
Yeah, I mean, they make a huge difference. But I don't know if it changes much, to be honest.
Okay. That's sort of the crux of the thing. Like, having these guys that do change our approach tactically and bring something totally different to the table, especially going forward where we were just so awful. Would that be enough to really sort of get things going? Or are we at a place mentally where that is just, it doesn't matter. You can have
sometimes one player can will you over the line.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I think having Serginho Dest, I think we would have found a way to score against Panama if Serginho Dest is in that game. He would have broken somebody down. He's like one of the only guys on the field who's willing to just he's got a couple moves in the bag and he's willing to just break you down and find delivery and or cut inside and shoot. Like, he's the only guy who's really been able to do that consistently for us.
That's fair. And listen, Anthony Robinson is in the form of his life for Fulham at this moment and just pushing forward at any half opportunity. He's basically already at the other team's end line. Mitch, any thoughts?
It's almost a chicken or the egg thing, right? Like Tyler said, one player, one small act, even a foul can spur an entire team on if it's put in the right scenario. I think we win one of those games if both Jedi and Serginho Dest are healthy. I think the sentiment, though, is the same. The overall vibe is such that there are things that need to be fixed mentally, and we all know how we can make the right decisions on the field, but overall, there's work to be done in this camp. I think we win one of those games. It's probably the Panama one. Yeah, I don't think it makes a huge difference, though.
Yeah. Okay, I got nothing to add there. I mean, it obviously would have changed if you beat Panama, if you just sort of skate through somehow or back your way into the final. Then you got Mexico, which is a different prospect altogether anyway. Maybe it's better. Maybe it's better we didn't get our asses handed us by Mexico in the way we were going to line up against these guys. All right. And, the one player who I don't think we talked about, we mentioned his dad at some point. Gio Reyna never came up in our conversation about U.S. men's national team in this discussion. He's got to be sort of the most, I don't know, intriguing / potentially disappointing player in the pool at this point. There was a lot of talk about coming into the window whether Pochettino would even bring him, given how little playing time he's getting at Dortmund. And then I thought I read somewhere that Pochettino said, it'd be good to have him come in and actually get him some minutes. He didn't play, did he?
He played the last 15.
Yeah.
Oh, did he get in the last 15 of the game? Okay. He got in for okay. I guess I'm thinking of that because what did he do? He didn't do anything. Anyway, that's not just a shot at him, by the way. All right. We will do quickly a quick compliment corner. We have to do this because we haven't been. We've thrown a lot of shots at this guy. Let's everybody go around the circle, go around a little powwow here, say something nice about Josh Sargent because I feel like he probably needs it after that first 20 minutes of our discussion. Tyler, you're good at this, even if you ruin it sometimes.
He's really good for his club.
Okay, good start, Mitchell.
I think I would put him over Brian White in terms of striker depth chart.
Okay, all right, we're digging deep. Tommy,
You play at a much higher level than me, so I'm not going to say shit.
Fair enough. I will say, while the goals weren't coming in, I loved the hair, the real fro, the red fro going on he had at this window. Loved it. I was all ready to be on the Josh Sargent train, but man, didn't work out. It did not work out. All right, time to move on to England, the Premier League, where we don't actually have any Premier League games this weekend. So I was going to do a quick FPL update where we got some movement at the bottom of the table, but you know what? We're going to save that. We're going to save that for next week. Instead, we're going to quickly give everybody a heads up on the FA Cup, which we're at the quarterfinal stage, and that's why this weekend there are not actually any official Premier League games. So we have 4 games to I guess scratch whatever itch we have been developing over the last couple of weeks of the international break. We have Fulham hosting Palace, Brighton hosting Nottingham Forest, Preston hosting Aston Villa, and Bournemouth hosting City. Some interesting ones there. Mitch, which one catches your fancy?
Oh, I wasn't paying attention. I was looking at my Goa. Go to someone else.
Tyler, who you got? Which are the
Bournemouth is going to beat City.
Straight up. I've got a bet on them as well, but I'll save that for later.
Okay.
Tommy?
Well, he took mine because I want to see Bournemouth go far. So give me a sec.
I mean, Brighton Forest.
I'm so smart. Everybody just wants whatever I say.
I want to see one of these non-Big Six teams win. And
Anybody but City.
Pretty much. I would be okay with anybody but City winning. Even Villa.
Tommy's a huge proponent of the underdog. He was actually rooting for Westchester United against his own club while he sat at home and didn't play.
False, slanderous, libelous. Yes, I'm 100%. I said that a couple weeks ago when Manchester City and Manchester United were, I think, the only Big Six left. Anybody but City would be an amazing result for this FA Cup, and I think it would be great for the league. In fact, but Brighton Forest should be a very interesting game. So that's the one I'm most interested in. All right, heading over to stoppage time. Before we do that, we do got to give a quick shout out to our other friends at Arc Designs, the best 3D engraving business, especially for those of you if you want a little cup holder with a stadium on it. Tyler, what am I forgetting?
It's not a cup holder. It's a coaster.
Coaster.
It's a coaster.
Excuse me.
Yep.
Excuse
coaster
me.
or like a nice little nice little table, sort of like a side table for your desk, in your study or whatever it might be. But yeah, great friends over at Arc Designs, and I'll tell you what, we love you guys to death. Not Arc Designs, our dear listeners. We really do love you because it was set to expire again, and you guys just kept buying them up like they were going out of style, and they were like, we got to keep it going. We got to give Sam's Army what they want, which is 10% off of Arc Designs products. Again, use the code SAM25. Sounds familiar. It's because it's what we do, SAM25. It's going to get you 10% off of your order. Again, whatever stadium you want, any sport, if they don't have it in stock, you can customize it. I see people posting them in our Discord, which is amazing. Which a quick little shout out to the Sam's Army Patreon. If you're not subscribed, get on it, get a part of the Discord. It's the best way to just sort of chat footy in a big group chat all day long, and plenty of channels in which Mitch is going to inappropriately allocate some of his material to certain channels. But he does other things good for the podcast, I guess. And yeah, shout out to Arc Designs, who continue to be a proud partner of Sam's Army.
Good shout. We will move on to stoppage time, where
MLS hit a minute, quit it.
Oh, my bad. Thank you. God,
I didn't get to nut last week. Let me nut, bro.
Shame. Get it in there. Get it in there, son.
Come
MLS
on,
hit and
man.
quit it minute man himself, Tyler Terrence. Give us all you got.
All right, so obviously international window, so that means that Major League Soccer is not going to play. No, I'm kidding. We're going to continue to play, and teams are going to have absence lists that are longer than a CVS receipt, including Atlanta United, who go on the road, which is where we're going to start, to TQL Stadium right down the road from yours truly here in Loveland, Ohio. Final score, FC Cincinnati 2, Atlanta United 2, despite a whole host of missing players, and that's going to be a theme throughout week number 5 in Major League Soccer. Alvis Powell with the own goal inside of the last 2 minutes of the game, and Atlanta United eke out a draw. More problems for Pat Noonan and company, but I think they're actually going to sort it out in short order. All right, let's head over to Minnesota United, the beautiful home of my second home, Allianz Field. That score finishes 2-2 with Minnesota and LA Galaxy playing to an entertaining draw. Now let's head over to the other Queen City, who some in Cincinnati would say is the fake Queen City, but then they're in Charlotte. They actually deem it the real Queen City. Charlotte 4, San Jose 1. Take that, Bruce Arena and the Fighting San Jose Earthquakes. We're going to send you back to reality. And Pep Biel is named to your MLS Team of the Week, and I believe Player of the Match Day in week number 5. Great win for Charlotte off the heels of a big win against FC Cincinnati last week. All right, heading over to lower.com Field, the home of the Columbus Crew. Absolute stinker between the Crew and NYCFC. There was one goal that was chalked off, but 0-0 is the final score. NYCFC had nothing to do with this game. The fact that they came away with a draw, God bless all of you over in New York City FC. I don't even know if we're allowed to call it that anymore. They sent out a memo about what they want to be called from now on. I'll get to that next week when I call the game. Red Bulls 2, Toronto FC 1 in Harrison, New Jersey. Big win for Red Bulls and company. Now let's go to Central Florida. Orlando City taking care of business against DC United. Marco Pasalic. Golazo. Que golazo. If you haven't seen it, go check it out. Probably one of the best goals of the match day. Lions come away with a 4-1 win. Troy Lesane and DC United did not look up for it. I'll tell you that much. All right, let's go over to the banks of the Delaware River, where Bradley Carnell went up against St. Louis City. Remember that club that fired him while he was in the middle of his second season of an expansion club that he brought to the Western Conference first round of the playoffs and won a conference regular season title? Yeah, that same St. Louis City that got rid of him for literally no reason other than the fact that Lutz Pfannenstiel just wanted to shake some shit up like he had been doing all along. Philadelphia 1, St. Louis City 0. Bradley Carnell says, take that, St. Louis City, because those boys be rolling, and they're back in the win column after losing their first game last week. All right, Music City, Nashville 3, Montreal 0. And what does that mean for Laurent Courtois? You're out. He is fired effectively immediately this morning. We're recording this on a Monday. Tom Bogert reporting that he was out as manager. It is officially the most unstable job possibly on planet Earth, being in charge of CF Montreal. They have never had a coach even enter their third season of being in charge. They're now going to have 12 coaches in their 14 years of existence in Major League Soccer. Think about that for a second. This is more unstable than any job in Mexico, and that's saying some shit. Nashville win it 3-0. Bye-bye, Laurent Courtois. Nothing that you did, pal. Nothing whatsoever. You've been doing the Lord's work with that budget, which is basically nil. All right, let's head over to the Heartland. Peter Vermees and Sporting Kansas City. They haven't won since mid-September of last year. Mid-September. 12 games. Winless. What do they do against LAFC? They lay an egg, and they have 75% possession, and they still couldn't manage to muster up anything more than I think what was like 0.9 XG on the night. LAFC get it done thanks to David Martinez and Aaron Long. 2-0 was the final score. LAFC back in business. Let's go to the Mile High City, where Portland Timbers smashed the Colorado Rapids by a score of 3-0. Good on Phil Neville and company. Boy, did they need that win. I can't even speak. Real Salt Lake 0, FC Dallas 1. Lucho Acosta, you beautiful little Argentinian McNugget. He gets it done. Dallas back in the win column as well. Seattle Sounders and Houston Dynamo. Good Lord Almighty. Stinker of the highest order. 0-0 is the final score. A rematch of the playoffs from last year. Doesn't really look like either team is going to be a playoff team this season if Seattle keep it up with these injuries. And then the Vancouver Whitecaps late game on Saturday night. They were the only perfect team remaining in Major League Soccer. And who undoes them? Yeah, you heard it. You heard it here correct. Triple G, Greg Berhalter in the Chicago Fire. Ugo Kuipers inside of the first minute. Zinkernagel with a nice little smooch on the underneath of the crossbar. Sam Rogers. It don't matter if it's Vancouver, Brad Stuver of your favorite movie, MacGruber. Chicago Fire 3, Vancouver Whitecaps 1. And then finally, Sunday Night Soccer, as it would be. Hold on, I got to go to the next page here with Fat Mob. San Diego and Austin FC. Brandon Vasquez getting a goal, although he probably should have had a hat trick. San Diego battled back into the game. Probably should have maybe potentially had the equalizer, but Austin FC win it by a score of 2-1. Back-to-back wins for Nico Estevez and company. Could they be legit? I don't know. Mitro Oduni was on international duty, like half the league was. So take that for what it is, and that would do it for match day number 5.
Well done, as always. Shout out Chicago Fire. I mean, we're in fifth place at the moment, 3 wins, a draw and a loss. I did not see us standing in this position after we got our asses handed us by Columbus in the first week of the season. Also, quick shout out to Sam Fam, Brant Bronico or Brony Bro. He is a solid player for Charlotte. Like I mean, he's been doing it for years, but like I'm just happy for him. It's great to see him balling out there. Quickly. It's ridiculous that MLS plays, right? Like this is ridiculous that they don't take these windows off. It's insane. I don't get it. It kind of makes, I know that like people look for material to make fun of MLS about and say it's somehow, less of a league, like, or less serious of a league. This gives them absolute ammunition. Like this, just shut it down. Take a week off.
Well, you can't when you shut the league down for stuff like Leagues Cup. And,
that's a good point. Yeah. I know. Well, we can. That leads to a whole different conversation we don't need to have. All right. Stoppage time. Ivan Toney's best bets. Granted, these are always tough in the international break. I thought for a minute we were looking like we were going to come up big. Started out 2-1 on the week and then just got absolutely railroaded on Saturday and Sunday. The two games together combined, 0 goals. 0-0 and 0-0. That one hurts. Took it on the chin. I had a little session with myself. Gonna get my chi back. Not like that, Tyler. Not like that. I thought about things.
I don't know what a session with yourself is supposed to mean.
That's true. It was the verbiage is not what I had really thought through there. Anyway, I'm ready to go. I don't have the hat, and it's an international break, so we got 2 asterisks, but I still feel really good about these picks. Overtrain, 5-a-side, 1 a day, Wednesday through Sunday. We're going to start on Wednesday where Arsenal host Real Madrid in the Women's Champions League. Arsenal go home down 0-2. There's going to be goals. Thursday, Colo-Colo versus Palestino in the Chilean Premier League. Friday, listen, we got to dig deep, okay? It's an international break here. Friday, we're going to my beloved A-League down under. MacArthur is hosting Newcastle Jets. Saturday, also my other happy place, Bundesliga 2, Magdeburg hosting Hanover. And then on Sunday, as I teased earlier, Bournemouth hosting Man City, and there's got to be at least 3 or 4 goals in that one. I'm going to say maybe 4 or 5. So there we go. There's our Overtrain 5-a-side winners this week. Mitchell, who you got?
I got 3 picks for you. All of these are on Saturday afternoon. New York Red Bulls money line against the New England Revolution. The New England Revolution have to figure it out. They're bad. Eintracht Frankfurt money line against VSB Stuttgart. That will be in the DFB Pokal. And Genoa plus 1.5 against Juventus. Juventus are a collective, or I guess aggregate, down 0-7 in their last 2 league games. I'm still going to bet against them. I'm not betting on them turning this season around. They're kind of dead in the water from what I've seen from them. So I like Genoa. Put those all together. You're at plus 775. And I'd like to note, I was ridiculed. I was called an absolute muppet in the Discord for pronouncing Bosnia and Herzegovina as Bosnia and Herzegovina, which is the preferred pronunciation by those who live there. And then I turned around and got that bet right, along with my Argentina-Uruguay bet, which was a 1-0 game, exactly as I had called it, with a second-half goal. So I can pronounce things however I want.
I want to go back and actually listen to if you pronounced it that way or whether you
pronounced it exactly like that, Bosnia and Herzegovina.
Because I remember when you said it, I kind of like that didn't sound right. But listen,
it sounds pretentious.
Oh yeah,
right.
because Sam's allowed to be the he's allowed to be the one that corrects
the ultimate arbiter of all things
pronunciation.
This guy. Yeah, the fact that I didn't think it was right must mean it probably was right. Okay, fair enough. Tyler, best bet. What do you got?
All right, we got a parlay. All right, we're gonna go Rebels win at New England. Vancouver wins at Toronto. Atlanta wins home against NYCFC.
I'll put those together. What do you got?
I don't know. Probably something obscene.
Fair enough. Let's go get obscenely wealthy together. Tommy, you got anything this week?
Yeah, I'll go Stuttgart, Frankfurt. Lots of goals. And
Love
then
that.
St. Louis, Austin, not a lot of goals.
Not a lot of goals. Overs and unders. I love that. Okay. Everybody's favorite segment time. GOAWs, GOATest of all week, for those wondering what that actually means. I know Mitchell always is. Well, Mitch, you were, I know you got a GOA. I know you got one.
Yeah.
Hit us with it. Maybe more. Maybe more.
I still want to take umbrage with just the whole fucking name of this segment, but whatever. First one, quick one, is to my cousin Ryan, who was the goalkeeper at Eastern Connecticut for Patrick Agyemang's years there. I found that out when Agyemang started the other day, and my mom texted me and said, "Oh, Ryan's friend is playing." And I was like, what does that mean, Mom? She was like, "Oh, look, they played together at ECU." And I was like, "Oh shit, they did." So shout out Ryan. I will be a best man in his wedding coming up very shortly. But my other GOA is New Caledonia. And I feel like this may have been one of Sam's honorable mentions that I'm stealing right now. New Caledonia is an island nation. It's a French territory with a population just south of 300,000. And they were so close to qualifying for the World Cup this past week. 30 minutes away, close. They played New Zealand in a qualifier, and it was 0-0 up until the 61st, I want to say. And then New Zealand opened the floodgates and ended up winning 3-0. But it would have been beyond monumental for an island nation of 300,000 people to qualify for the World Cup. Like, just deep that for a second. You all
Iceland.
likely... What?
Iceland.
What's Iceland's population, though? It's got to be well over 1 million.
300,000.
Iceland's really?
Yeah.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yep.
I still think that's extraordinary too.
You're actually right.
Like,
Closer to 400, but
yeah, exactly. No, I think a lot of listeners likely live in metropolitan areas where the population is well over 300,000 people. Or maybe you live where Tyler lives in Cincinnati and it's like, what, 20, 30,000? But either way, I still think that would have been an unbelievable story. They, being New Caledonia, have another chance to qualify through a OFC playoff, I believe. And that's coming up in a couple months. But I'm rooting for them. I'm pulling for them through and through.
It's a good shout. You follow all the like the San Marinos and the New Caledonias.
Yeah, I have so much love for the San Marino national team. They've collabed with me on a couple Instagram posts. I just fuck heavy with San Marino.
Now, if they ever make a World Cup,
that'd be special.
Can I correct Mitchell on his guess of what the metropolitan population of Cincinnati is?
I was being purposefully asinine, but yeah.
Yeah, 2.2 million.
Whoa, I live in New York.
Yeah, where are you from, big dog?
I'm from Wilmington, Massachusetts, baby. Population 30,000.
All right.
Oh, that's good. I love that. All right. Well, Tyler, you want to follow that up?
Yeah, I already talked about it a little bit, but what's going on at CF Montreal is some of the most sick shit in soccer in the world. It's not only the fact that they are now going to have their 12th head coach in the last 14 years. It's not just that. Okay, that alone is pretty sick. But going back to 2014, okay, 2014, CF Montreal has not spent a dime on a transfer fee for a DP.
Insane.
Not one. Not a nickel. Okay? And each coach that has endured the bullshit that exists within CF Montreal has been deemed unfit for the position. Unfit, except for Wilfred Nancy, who got another job. All of them have been told they're not good enough when they're operating with the smallest budget of Major League Soccer. It is diabolical. It really is. And I'll tell you what, most of them are doing the Lord's work. I really think that like most of them are decent coaches. Wilmer Cabrera probably missed me with that, but like Laura Contois, good coach. Wilfred Nancy, obviously very good coach. Frank Klopas, God bless him, when he was in charge of that team. Is he a good coach now? No, he was a good coach back then. He got fired. Brought them to a CONCACAF Champions Cup final. I mean, geez, every single one of them. Wild.
Did you see the little thing that I put in the Discord MLS channel as well? Their first 7 games of the season are away games.
On the road. Yeah.
Same thing as last year. Yeah.
Too cold. Crazy.
It is cold up there. That's crazy. There's all sorts of talk about what exactly is going on with that club and how long they're actually going to last in Montreal. That would be an absolute crime if they were allowed to leave Montreal. When I was up there, I was so impressed
Great
by
city.
how. First of all, Montreal, the city is amazing, but I was so impressed by the fan support for the team. It was awesome.
It's a cool stadium. It's like it feels actually very European to me.
That tracks.
Yeah,
That tracks with Montreal. Okay, who's your goal?
Me?
Yep.
There's only one this week. Cecilia Waterman, for sure. That was one of the coolest moments. The interview after is great. Henri followed through with the jerseys, went to Classic Football Shirts to get jerseys for Doncic, Jackson Hayes, and Cecilio. Awesome week, but I think equally awesome for Thierry Henry. I think he handled that really well. He seemed very genuine. And then his shirt got a little tighter the next game. Guns were looking good, and then went to a Lakers match. Like he's had himself quite a week too.
Yeah, I mean, I struggle to have warm thoughts about that, just given sort of the situation and everything around it. But if you can, take away the fact that it was the U.S. men's national team and we just had our hearts ripped out and our dicks kicked in. Outside of that, that was pretty cool, and the celebration was pretty cool. And
awesome.
I agree with you. Henri handled it well, and it was kind of interesting because Henri's 99.9% of the time, if you see him on TV and everything, he's just he's a little too cool for school. He's a little sort of reserved and everything, and you could tell that he got caught out there, and he's kind of like, whoa, this is kind of cool. This is interesting. So I feel seeing that sort of him break that mold. That was cool. So well done to Waterman, I guess. All right. I got two. First, I got to give on the plus side, I'm going to give Diego Luna a shout out because he really, there's been a lot of talk about, he's been kind of a controversial pick for the men's national team. Is he going to play for us or play for Mexico? And, is he sort of a good fit? Is he up to the levels? And he was out there, trying to do everything he could do to pull us through. So shout out to him. He showed well. Other goal, I'm actually going to give it to Jesse Marsh, that red card. And the post game, his discussion of sort of winding in the years and years of disrespect that Canada, has had to endure. That may be true. In fact, it probably is true, but you're American. You became sort of an honorary Canadian yesterday. So it just felt a little performative, a little over the top, a little. The fact that David did not get fouled even in the least on the play, and then for you to sort of roll this in and bring Canadian disrespect into it. No, he was an absolute not a penalty. You're just sort of talking out of your ass. There's a better time and a place for what you're saying.
I think those things are separate. I think Jesse Marsh being snubbed essentially for the U.S. men's national team job, then going to get the Canadian job, I think that obviously contributes to the chip on his shoulder. He does probably feel like an ass going back in the locker room, watching that over and being like, "Ooh, okay, that was very obviously not a penalty." That I feel is separate from the general CONCACAF disrespect. Excuse me. For a long time, the U.S. has been kind of the understood champions of CONCACAF, and Canada has something to say about that. I fully back Jesse Marsh in his animosity towards the Federation.
Oh yeah, I mean I get that, but just say that then. Don't fucking hide behind the Canadians been feeling all this disrespect. No, you feel disrespected by the U.S. Federation.
The Canadian national team though, he's the head coach.
Yeah, true, but he's projecting onto different things. His quote, the fact that it's not even reviewable is inexcusable. No,
well, that's wrong. That's incorrect. Yeah,
that's just ridiculous. It's just patently ridiculous.
That was not a penalty.
It's just silly. So just get your kind of redirect your anger. If you want to be mad at the Federation, I think you probably have a little bit of a bone pick. But take it up with the Federation. Don't take it up with this sort of referee and her missing calls, which she did not miss at all. And you deserved a red. All right. There we go. Tyler, Mitchell, Tommy, you guys are the best. Mikey will be back again soon. Everybody in the Discord chat, I love you, each and every one of you. If you're not on the Sam's Army Patreon to get on the Discord, you are missing out. You're missing Tommy's tactical blogs. You're missing the chat all the time. And we got the bonus episodes, which we need to get some more out there. So, everybody, we love you. We'll see you better, bigger, better, faster, stronger next week. Yes, sir. I thought maybe my internet was going to be bad, but I don't think I ever